Dominic Raab may be a name that you're unaware of. He's the man who said that human rights are not needed in this country, that he doesn't want workers to have any kind of workers' rights, meaning that if you work more than your contracted hours, you shouldn't get paid any more for it because, who the hell wants people to have workers' rights? He said that the NHS was a childish dream. It's a childish dream to think that a country can have a universal healthcare system, a free at point of use healthcare system. And he's also the guy running the show with Brexit. And he just admitted that he had no idea how complicated Dover was. Okay. Maybe it's because I'm a Doverian and I know how important Dover is to the rest of the country. Now, this isn't the only goods and exports point for the UK, but it's certainly the busiest, and the Channel Tunnel is one of the busiest ports and shipping lines in the world. It's a short distance between here and Calais, but it's one of the busiest in the world. And at the other end, when you get to France, if they have to slow down for whatever reason, pick it, you could say maybe we're leaving the European Union, and because of that we can't just have a free flow, and by international law we would be required to check a lot more things. Having that would dramatically and drastically slow down the goods and travels, which would lead Dover being gridlocked pretty much constantly. And how, if you don't like that example, you can have when the French go on strike, because that's happened a number of times, and what's happened in Dover is come to a standstill. The M20 has become a glorified car park known as Operation Stack. That might have been in the news a couple of times. So maybe it's because I'm from Dover that I know this. Or maybe it's because I actually bothered to spend 5 minutes looking into Brexit and a few of the pitfalls that we're likely to see, that I'm aware of how important Dover and the Irish border is. Unlike Dominic Raab. Honestly, if you were writing these characters down, you would get criticised for making them so simplistic and unbelievable, but that's exactly what we have. Dominic Raab doesn't know his arsehole from his elbow, doesn't know a single damn thing about Brexit, and yet he's leading the charge. Jesus, I make this comparison. I've said before, if you watch American politics, you keep an eye on that, you got a fair understanding of what's going to happen here. Maybe not immediately, but within a few years. And that's the sentiment I've seen echoed for a few different people around the country. But it's not a time delay anymore. It's happening. Incompetent people having the most important jobs in the country. America, Betsy DeVos spends her entire career trying to destroy public education, now in charge of public education. And what do we have here? Just weeks after schools around the country saying, look, we are not getting enough funding to teach your children. We can't stay open for a full 5 days a week anymore. What do we get? Philip Hammond cuts education in his new budget. We have Michael Gove, who's meant to be looking out for the environment in this country, and other ministers that work with him who just sit back and let fracking take place, despite the fact that it has a very strong negative consequence on the environment, on local environments around it. I mean, hell, within a few short weeks, we've had something like 15 earthquakes directly responsible to fracking. Now, they've not been these big, massive, dramatic, ground ripping open and swallowing entire cities, but they've been documented, they've been recorded, and it's because of fracking in the UK that Michael Gove has just let happen. Now, why he's done that? It's not because he's incompetent, it's because Shell Corporation's paid, just in 2 years, over £300 million into the Tory party. Bringing it back to Brexit, back to these lovely negotiations with people who are so incompetent that they've only just realised one of the busiest ports in the world that has the most coming from the continent into this little island only just realises how important it is. We're in November now. Negotiation talks for Brexit should conclude this month. The reality is that we have nothing. We have absolutely nothing. And if it does end this month, we're kind of screwed. But Jacob Rees-Mogg comes on and says, we need to be leaving the European Union. That's what everyone voted for. Opinions can change, minds can change, but hey, no, we voted. We had that one vote and that's it, we're done. Leave campaign violated campaign financing laws. We know that as a fact now. What you consume in the media does influence your perspective. So the Leave campaign had this massive leg up, making sure that their message got across, and the pathetic Remain campaign just didn't do their damn job. How hard is it to step out and say, no, you're lying? Point blank, you're lying. They didn't do it. So as far as Jacob Rees-Mogg is concerned, even though this month those negotiations, those talks were meant to finish, we shouldn't have that extended Brexit period. We shouldn't have any more delays. It should be done and gone. Now I'm going to go out on a limb and say that the only reason he's saying that is because he's a multi-millionaire. If things all go tits up, what's he likely to do? I mean, for him, the worst case scenario is joining Nigel Farage and David Cameron and the rest of them over on the continent, over in Belgium. Because that's where they live now. So hey, for the rest of us who have been pushed off this plank blindfolded, things are a little more serious. And if Dominic Raab has only just understood that Dover's kind of important when it comes to Brexit, when it comes to trade imports and exports to the country, well, I hope you understand now that we've got a serious problem. People at the top haven't got a damn clue what they're doing. And while you would assume that Theresa May would realise this is her legacy, and she will be judged for the rest of human history on this principle, when we study politics in the future, when countries study economics and crashes and unions and everything else, you would think that she would put competent people in charge. But no, point blank, she is Trumpian, and that is devastating to say, but that's what we have. We have a cabinet full of incompetent morons who aren't interested in reality, who aren't interested in doing their jobs, who aren't interested in actually learning. And this is what we're stuck with. They're not going to pay for this, we are. And that's the situation we're in.